Welcome to another Business Spotlight. My name is Kerry James. I'm a business coach and a facilitator, and this is where we share insights, reflections, and pearls of wisdom from local business owners. And on today's Business Spotlight, I'm delighted to welcome Mr. Chirs Norburn, owner-director of Cantec Energy Solutions. Very good afternoon to you, Chris, and great to have you on Business Spotlight.
Good afternoon, Kerry. Yeah, great to be here. Really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you on this, so looking forward to it. Thank you.
Very good. Well, let's start with an overview of Cantec Energy Solutions, if we may, please, Chris. How long have you been running the business, and what sort of areas you specialise in, please?
Okay. I started Cantec Energy Solutions in mid 2020, and it's an energy consultancy and energy advisory business, assisting building owners, occupiers, and FM teams on those buildings with improving the efficiency of the buildings, using energy management controls, monitoring systems, and such. So it's an energy engineering business and consultancy, basically. So we provide both turnkey solutions, designing solutions, and then we also offer advisory services as well.
And is that pretty much exclusively in the commercial sector then, Chris?
No, it relates to any building, really. I always say to people, it's not about the building, it's about the asset. So most buildings I come across all have heating, ventilation, air conditioning, lighting, metering, renewables, on-site generation. So mainly every building other than domestic at the moment. And
what's the model there? Is there usually a kind of middleman that you work with, or what would be kind of ideal client for you?
My ideal client is I like to call them partners now. I like to create partnerships with customers. So because I'm an independent consultant, I like to sit on the customer's table. So, I'm there representing the customer on how we interact or interface or amend the building's energy assets and usage. So generally what I get involved with is the design and the audits and the surveys for energy performance and energy reduction and energy improvement. And then this is where we can go two ways. I can provide the solution and the design that's been put forward as a full turnkey solution, because I do have supply chain as well, from electrical installers, electrical contractors to product manufacturers who I work with long term. Or the other way is I specify those products and those solutions to the customer, the best ones I feel that fits their buildings best, and then I become more of a verification service and a validation service to ensure the projects and the designs we put forward meet the criteria, meet the performance, and then I do the ongoing energy and performance and the asset monitoring going forwards post project. So it's a bit of a mixed match of services, really. But I usually sit down with each customer and ask what they want from that service.
And do you have a team of employees, or do you mainly work with contractors? How does that operate, Chris?
I have two part-time staff who work with me quite a lot, and then I have which is important to me, and I think it's important to most businesses, is I have a really strong supply chain who I work with through my past being employed as a director, operations director at engineering businesses. So I have long-term partners in all aspects of the engineering, like I said, from electrical contracting to product manufacturing. I work with a lot of the manufacturers on redesign and rescope to suit projects I'm working on. Most recently, I've been doing air quality. So yes, at the moment, I have two part-time staff. And I have quite a large supply chain. I usually have three suppliers for every discipline I work with, so it keeps it competitive. So some guys do bigger buildings and some guys do smaller buildings, so it's where their niche is.
And what about the huge environmental changes we've been through over the last 3 years, Chris? Clearly, energy prices have been top of the news. The move towards renewable is a huge trend, but thinking about other elements of inflation and interest, how have all those, hybrid working even, how have all those things impacted on your business and your industry, would you say?
Yeah, massively. I mean, what I would say at the moment is, given the cost of energy, the energy crisis we're living in at the moment, there's never a better time to do energy efficiency projects. I'm a big believer in, my model. I always say with my customers that it's not a single project approach; it's a 2-3 year plan approach. So my model has always been to do energy efficiency first, and what I mean by energy efficiency is go and re-engineer the systems and the assets that are on the site as they are when we find them at the survey, not to take things out, put new things in. Because what I want to do is I want to try and find energy savings, immediate cost savings, that then can then fund future projects, the larger projects such as renewables and on-site generation. So my model's always been about save to invest. So the first few months of my projects with my customers is to go in and make the building as efficient as possible from day one before we spend a lot of money on retrofits and refurbs and asset modifications and asset replacements. So it's always been about a save to invest model with 1, 2, 3 year plans in place.
Okay. So in relation to where your business is now and where you'd like to get it to, Chris, what would you say are your main challenges today?
Coming out of the PLC world, working for large engineering companies, and my biggest struggle now is, I might have had some reputation out there with a lot of the customers and a lot of especially in the public sector. So my challenge at the moment, I find it really difficult to get into public sector works because of the size of my business now. I very rarely get through qualification stage at any tenders, and that's because I'm just a small business. I mean, what they do promote is that I work with some of the FM providers or the engineering companies on those tenders, but it's still difficult sometimes to get in and become a partner consultant with other providers, shall we say. So at the moment, the size of my company does restrict me with the size of the projects I can do.
And in terms of the aspirations, clearly from what you've said already, Chris, the business at the moment, at least, is very reliant on your time and your skills. Where would you like to see the business, if at all differently? Do you have a vision as to what it might look like in 5 years' time, for example?
Yeah, difficult one. Being an independent, there's not a lot to sell really, I suppose, apart from myself. I'm 55 now, so if I retire in 10 years' time, which I don't intend to do, but if I retired in 10 years' time, I suppose the only thing I could sell is myself. So the business is myself, really. So I've got, what I'm working on at the moment is a couple of plans and strategies around how big do I grow this company. I've always had, in my past, when I was at engineering companies, I've had a team of between 20 to 30 people with me all the time that have gone through different businesses with me for over 20 years. They're now still my former employees, and they're doing really well. So it's whether or not I scale up again and take more staff on and then make it a business that can be sold when I leave, and I could just become an advisory board member or an executive director or something of that sort when I get to retirement age. Or the other option is franchise, something I've not looked at yet, not fully aware of or not fully conversant with, but that's another option. Other than that, the only option I've got left is to become, because I don't really want to retire at 65. I'm going to be honest. I enjoy my job. I enjoy working. I enjoy being active. So the other options I'm looking at is the non-executive directorship role or the advisory board member role for other businesses. Don't have to be engineering. So I do a lot with a couple of small businesses local to me at the moment around financial management, P&L management with them. So I help them do that sort of stuff, business marketing. Yeah.
And so prior to Cantec, were you in the kind of big corporate world, or were you running a business before? Tell us a little bit more about that, please.
Yeah, before Cantec, I was part of a large engineering firm doing large capital investment programs, carbon neutral projects. So I was a small business within a group of businesses. So I used to do all the energy management, monitoring and controls of those projects. So the engineering company used to do all the renewals, the asset replacement, asset refurbishment. I used to do all the on-site generation, decarbonisation. We're talking multi-million pound projects, where my team was just to connect to those sites, do the remote monitoring, remote control, and the remote engineering. So we used to reduce the cost of ongoing maintenance and improve the efficiency of maintenance going forward, because we had an engineering help desk. So we used to monitor about 2,000 sites from the engineering help desk. That was manned by engineers. So we used to supplement the business by doing that.
Okay, so moving on then to what you've learned, because it sounds like your previous role was very much technical engineering, a specialism type of role, and clearly as a business owner, we've all got to make that transition from being more of a specialist in many circumstances to much more of a generalist, whether it's sales, marketing, finance, team building, leadership. A lot of those requirements are, is what business owners need, but middle managers, senior managers in large organizations don't necessarily need. So what are the key lessons you've learned over the last, what is it now, three years or so, Chris, from making that transition into business ownership, would you say? And what advice might you give yourself again, if you were starting again, knowing what you know now?
I would say for definite that the biggest lesson is an owner of a business has to definitely work on the business and not in the business. When I first started out the business, it was just myself. So I used to get an order in, I then used to deliver the works, do all the client meetings, all the site meetings, all the site handovers. So while I'm doing all that, I was not doing any more business development, marketing, and strategy, and all the things that need to go with building a business. So from starting from scratch, setting up my own business, I learned very quickly that yes, I need to step back from within the business, get a good supply chain behind me, a couple of good staff. So I can help with the technical solution and development side and design, but I could leave those to do the deliverables, because I had to then start teaching myself a lot more on marketing, because obviously that in the engineering business that was done for me, and business development, I was always okay with business development, but marketing definitely, digital definitely. So I've done some personal development as well, being a business owner, because I had to. The business won't grow unless I grow it, because I can't be there doing deliverables on projects. I need to be freed up from that. So that's the big lesson. Work on the business.
Absolutely. And what disciplines or habits or diary management techniques do you use to ensure that you don't immerse yourself, as so many business owners do, in just the urgent stuff, and make sure you protect time to do the important stuff?
I generally now, as a rule of thumb, I leave my Fridays free for admin, finance, business development, and marketing, and that is fixed in stone. My diary is fixed every Friday. That's what I'm working on. I do all my P&L. I have a really good accountancy partner behind me, so they're really helpful as well. That's another thing that if I was any business, get a really good accountancy. So even though I do my own P&L, they ratify everything for me. But yes, I have minimum 3-month goals. I do 3-month planning minimum, and I have also 1, 2, and 3 year plans about where I want to be in 1, 2, and 3 years, and where I want the business to be in, especially around, because especially in my business, solution development and energy management and products, with technology it's forever evolving. So you've got to keep ahead of that as well. So yeah, I would say 2.5 days of the week, that's what I'm working on all the time.
So you have your 90-day plan, and out of that comes your weekly plan, which you then make sure you make progress on every Friday. Is that
that's correct? I do a weekly P&L report, which is by project and by business, and then that keeps my cash flow going. I've got a smart banking system, so yeah, right. It's important to keep on top of every aspect of the business, because you can get very easily distracted with a project that's 20 days worth of labor. You can go and spend 20 days on a project. If you don't have a plan, you've got to have a plan, and you've got to have good people behind you and good support businesses behind you to allow you to go off and do that desk work.
Absolutely, and particularly on the financial controls, because in my experience, quite a few business owners abdicate that responsibility to their accountant, whereas actually they need to really understand, the most important numbers and what the KPIs are for the business to keep on track of it. Very good. Well, Chris, it's been fascinating to hear your journey. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts. Just one final question. If there are any potential partners watching the Business Spotlight or any of the other potential clients, is there anything you might suggest or offer as a next step?
Yeah, what I would suggest is anyone who makes an approach through this Business Spotlight, I'll offer 25% discounts on all energy audits and surveys to help them improve their buildings efficiency and costs, to improve their profits. So that's open. That you can always put that if you want to. I'll happily give a 25% discount to all approaches via the Business Spotlight.
Very good. And what, just to give us a little bit more flesh on that bone then, Chris, what does an energy audit, what's the size and shape of that?
So an energy audit, I usually do all that myself personally. So I basically attend, first of all, I will ask them if they've got any energy data, to sort of do some profiling benchmarking. If they haven't got any energy data, I ask them, can you see the last 12 months worth of billing, just so I can get an idea of how the building's performed over the last 12 months and get like what we call an energy profile. That I will then go to site for a day or two, depending on the size of the building, and walk around the site, non-intrusive, won't be changing anything, won't be touching anything other than a visual audit of what they've got, how things are controlled, how things are not controlled, more importantly, things that are kept on at night and in weekends, and is there any demand-led controls, such as are things only running when they need to be, like boilers and chillers and air conditioning, or is everything just on? So from out of the back of that survey, you get a report that gives you a shopping list of initiatives, which include cost savings and paybacks, all aimed at they're giving a return on investment somewhere between 1 and 3 years, depending on the type of the building. And then once they have that report, they can ask me to do the project and get involved. But they've bought that report, so they can then go and get that price check or done by their supply chain also. And again, I'm there for advisory purposes also afterwards if customers want that offer.
Very good. Okay, well, that's useful, I think, to have a little bit more detail on that. So once again, Chris, thanks ever so much for your time, your input, sharing your story, and all the very best to you and Cantec Energy Solutions.
No, really appreciate Carrie. Really appreciate the offer to this. Thank you.
All the best. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.